know why, but it just seems like the sun always just seems to come out just at the right time. Memorial Day is a special thing to me. It's something that I come up every year and have a hard time with trying to talk about these things, but it's actually pretty good for me to get some of the things out there and not keep it bottled up and pent up inside. I just recently came back from South Carolina. That's where I was at last week. I get down there, I usually have about 25, maybe 30 people. Not all of them are military. Some of them are just people that just show up. But there's a lot of brothers of mine that we all come together. We have a good time. We talk about our mates. We talk about our guys that are lost. We remember them fondly with stories. We talk about them all night long. And it's really a good therapy session for me twice a year. So I wanted to take and talk, before I get into the message, I wanted to kind of talk about some of the people that from our church who have served. The people from our church that have served are all found that calling to go out and serve the country, to live for something more than themselves. The first one is George Klein. George Klein served in the U.S. Navy, husband to Miss Beth. I was thankful that she gave me a picture of him in uniform. That's one of the things I kind of went around and asked certain people, to give me a picture if you had it of people in uniform. So thank you, George Klein. Dick Morgan. Dee gave me his picture and stuff, and he definitely infantry guy. You see that blue there. It stands out. Gilbert Myers. As long as I can remember Gilbert as a child, being up here on one of the first 4 pews here in the church. But Gilbert served in the United States Air Force. I don't know who this guy is. It seems like every time I turn around, this guy's face pops up somewhere. He's from the United States Marine Corps, if you all didn't know that. Because I'm sure that he tells you all that he's from the Marine Corps. We have crayons along with the food down here for you. Preston Jack Metz. I always knew him as Jackie Metz. He's from the United States Navy. Jack's daughter is here with us, and that would be his granddaughter, Olivia. He's been gone for a while, but, I still have fond memories of him playing guitar, Milton. Just something to remember. Jerry Lease. What can I say about Jerry Lease? He is the guy. He's the guy that we all aspire to be. I mean, that's who we look to. Jerry from the United States Navy. Dixie cup there on your head, you gotta do something with that, though. My dad, he was in the Army. He was an infantryman. He served in the National Guard. And I do miss his talks dearly every day. And of course, me. That's me with my little pizza hat on, and I was jumping out of airplanes and doing that kind of stuff for a number of years. But yeah, that's me. The members that I didn't have photos for, Gary Hicks, he was in the United States Air Force. And then Carrie Herschel, I don't know if you remember Carrie. I remember Carrie. And I do remember that she was, when I found out she was in the Army, I was like, wow, okay, cool. That's pretty cool. So we had a connection there. A person that I didn't have on my radar was Caressa's sister, Shanna Golden. And she served in it was the Army, right? Correct. Yeah, she served in the United States Army. So let's all remember them. So I wanted to jump right into, all this is to go back to saying the people that served. Isaiah 6:8 really says it all for us. Also, I heard the voice of the Lord saying, "Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?" Then I said, "Here I am, send me." That's what each and every one of these service members did. They stood up and said, "Send me." So I've talked to you guys about several things for Memorial Day. And I told you about people locally here like Orville Knight, Jack Beard, Dan Zerby, friend, one of my friends' schoolmates, my wife's grandfather, John North. And I told you about my close friend, Matt Slusteller. And last year, I told you about some heroes that you might not have known about, like Adam Brown, Randy Shugart, Gary Gordon, Shannon Kent, John Chapman. Each of these individuals laid down their life on the altar of freedom because they believed what they were doing was just and true. They did it out of love for their brothers and their sisters who wear the uniform and serve next to them. I wanted to go in a little different direction this year and talk about what our special forces do when one of us is lost, and that's hostage rescue. In history, since the beginning of time, special operations soldiers have performed some of the most harrowing and breathtaking rescues to get people from harm's way. In Joshua 2, there's a story of the two spies that were hidden by Rahab. In trade for hiding them, Rahab asked that they be delivered out of harm's way when Joshua and the Israelites took over the land. With the advent of the 1970s and the rise of terror of planes and hostages, the countries around the world saw a need to pivot their special forces to learn and adapt their abilities to rescue people. So more recent rescues were successful operations that showed the world in a very public way that evil would be met with extraordinary individuals to deliver those hostages from their captors. While America celebrated its day on 3 and 4 July 1976, 100 Israeli commandos from the Sayeret Matkal, say that 3 times fast, flew over 2,000 miles to liberate 102 hostages from terrorists in Entebbe, Uganda. There was only one commando that was lost in that raid. He gave his life so that others could live. Germany also raised force out of their police force. It was known as the GSG-9. They flew to Somalia in October of 1977 and conducted an operation freeing 92 hostages from hijacked Lufthansa Flight 181. The captain of the plane and the hijackers were the only fatalities. A month later, the President of the United States, Jimmy Carter, authorized the formation of a premier counterterrorist unit to prepare us for what was unfolding in the world in front of us. We jump ahead in time to 1979, when we watched our American embassy be taken over by Iranian revolutionaries who seized 52 hostages. America was now in a fraternity of countries affected by terrorism. And in April of 1980, America's premier counterterrorist force, known as Delta Force, made the attempt to rescue the hostages. However, the operation resulted in the loss of 8 lives after 2 aircraft collided while refueling in the middle of the Iranian desert. The rescue failed, but as our British counterparts would say famously, at least they had the guts to try. But important lessons were learned. In May of 1980, when we watched live on TV, I don't know if you all remember this. I know I remember it as a kid. I watched it on the Today Show. I couldn't believe it was unfolding before my eyes. We watched it live on TV that hostages get rescued in London at the Iranian embassy, where the British SAS rescued 25 hostages. No SAS operators were injured, and all but 1 terrorist was killed. The French GIGN flew to Algeria in December of 1994 and liberated 229 hostages from a hijacked Air France flight, killing all the terrorists without a loss of life members. During the global war on terror, there was several hostage rescues that was made by our Special Operations Forces that showcased the evolution of how good our troops had become with the advancement of techniques and equipment. JSOC units consisting of SEALs, Rangers, Air Force, Special Force PJs rescued Jessica Lynch, a West Virginia Guardsman whose unit was ambushed and her teammates killed. She was ultimately rescued, and the fallen soldiers as well were recovered, giving those families closure. No man left behind. The Italian government also asked the U.S. for help for recovering some of its citizens who Iraqi insurgents had taken hostage. The task fell to Delta, and it was time critical. With little planning and a daring daylight raid, Delta rescued 4 Italian security contractors in 2004. And in October of 2015, Delta Force conducted another hostage rescue at a prison holding ISIL prisoners doomed for death. 70 hostages and more than 20 Iraqi security force prisoners were rescued. Delta lost a key member, Master Sergeant Joshua Wheeler, who fell leading troops at the breach of the prison. Little backstory on him: during the breach, it was supposed to be led by the Afghan partner force, and when they failed to make it happen, he stepped up and he made it happen. Also, a Medal of Honor would be awarded out of that operation to Sergeant Major Thomas Payne. He actually, his story was kind of incredible. He went from one side of the compound to the under enemy fire, and the prisoners were actually locked in their cells, and the building was burning. And he went in and he freed them while under fire. There's more examples than I have time for that can show the heroism and selflessness of the people who conduct these. And you may wonder why I chose this for Memorial Day. These fantastic, extraordinary feats of humanity are documented and should be time and memorial. Remember the lost, celebrate the heroes, and embrace and love those who were hostages. There's one hostage rescue that stands above all the great rescues I've talked about. Probably the greatest rescue of them all. It's well documented and studied by people the world over. A man came to this world with one mission given to him by his father, and we recently celebrated that great accomplishment of saving hostages from certain death. Matthew 18:11 says, "This is Jesus speaking. For the Son of Man has come to save that which was lost." Jesus Christ came into this world with one purpose: to rescue mankind from a sin-filled world and eternal separation from God. God is the master planner. He gave Jesus the mission to bring those who believe in him and his teachings of love faith, and fear of God, Jesus knew what God had planned for him, and he knew that his earthly self would have to be sacrificed in order to complete the mission of delivering us from the doom that was assuredly deserved by us in this sin-filled and broken world. He even went to the garden and prayed and asked for it to be taken away from him, but he still accepted the mission, knowing it was a. You see, Ephesians 5:2 says, "And walk in as Christ also has loved us and given himself for us, an offering and a sacrifice to God for a sweet-smelling aroma." So I wanted to ask y'all something that I heard in Kingdom Men in our Bible study, which I encourage each man in this place, if you have the time to come to Kingdom Men, it's the place where you can come and talk freely, and we can learn about the Lord, and we can talk about the things that we experience. So I encourage you to do that. When you accepted Jesus as your soul being saved, as a prisoner, continue to wear the prison clothes of the unbeliever? Or do you shed them and assume the new clothes of freedom of the new Christian in the faith of Jesus, which he has delivered you to? When Jesus was on the cross sacrificing his life to rescue us, he uttered, "It is finished." Upon completion of his mission, all of our sins upon himself to atone for us. The Greek word tetelestai was the word that was used for "it is finished." It has three different forms of what it means. In a business context, it means a debt has been paid in full. In a judicial context, it means your sentence has been fully served. And in a military context, it means victory or triumph. So why do I tell you this? Jesus pleading his hostage rescue uttered the words, "It is finished," to say that your sin debt has been paid in full, and that the judgment of that sin has been fully, and that the war against sin, death, and Satan has been won. And God is triumphant, as it has been written. As Jesus said at the Last Supper to his disciples in John 15:13, and this verse is kind of another verse that the military clings to and holds on tightly. "Greater love has no one than this, than to lay down one's life for his friends." Friends, Jesus loved us that much. Please love him that much back, and live each day to honor God and Jesus Christ by how we live and in whatever we do. If there's somebody that doesn't know Jesus, and I'm going to hold that part. At this point, I'm gonna ask Nancy. She has a reading that she wanted to do, and I'm going to ask her to come up here.
Good morning, everyone. Today, as memory and sacrifice of men and women who have given their lives in the United States military, I was taken back to a sermon illustration used by Dr. David Jeremiah, encouraging us overcomers. Like some of you, I look forward and enjoy a break in my day to watch and listen to Dr. David Jeremiah. So allow me to share this true story illustration. As Dr. David Jeremiah leads into his message, he shares a true story of a war hero behind the scenes of a battle at Hawkshaw Ridge, Of course, our war hero is Desmond Doss. On May 5, 1945, Doss's day of Sabbath, Doss was a World War II medic who saved 75 lives, all while risking his own. For 12 hours, he single-handedly saved the lives of 75 Americans on the Maida Escarpment of Okinawa. Doss would say he did only what was right, that he never carried a weapon of any kind because he was in the business of saving lives, not taking them. His religious beliefs and upbringing were from the Seventh-day Adventists. When Dossman was a boy, his father and uncle were drunk and got in a horrible fight. The father pulled a gun on the uncle, but his mother stepped in. She called the police and asked Desmond to hide the gun. After doing so, Desmond returned just in time to see his father being loaded into a police car in handcuffs. Desmond believed that his father would have killed his uncle if his mother had not stepped in. Desmond vowed that would be the last time he would ever touch a gun. Desmond always did have a desire to help others, even before joining the Army. He wasn't one to give up. He didn't know how. Desmond took after his mother, who took passion, helping others, and the importance of following Christ. At age 18, Doss dutifully registered for the draft and worked at a shipyard in Newport News, Virginia. When World War II broke out, Doss jumped at the first opportunity to aid the cause. But the fact that he refused to carry a weapon, let alone kill anyone, earned him the widely unflattering label of conscientious objector. It was a label Doss hated, and instead of refusing to perform military service, he insisted that he work as a medic. The Army assigned a rifle company instead in hopes that he would he just didn't fit the Army model of a good soldier, would be what they said. Doss appealed the Army's decision up through the ranks until they begrudgingly made him. After his amazing display of bravery and heroism, finally won the respect of his fellow soldiers. His commanding officer, where Doss was, having later been wounded himself, and told him he had earned the Medal of Honor. President Truman said, "You really deserve this, young man. I consider this a greater honor than being a president." The commanding officer also brought to Doss a slightly burned and soggy Bible. Doss had lost it on the battlefield while saving the lives of the 75 injured Americans. The United States captured the area from the Japanese. Every able man in the company combed the rubble until they found Doss's Bible. Forever marked by the scars of that day, Doss lived to be 87 years old. I pray that Americans will never lose sight of the joy and freedom we know here. To maintain our Declaration of Independence cost us much toil and bloodshed, and it certainly was not free.
Thank you, Nancy. It's interesting if you know the story about Desmond Doss. The reason that his father had issues with PTSD because he was actually a hero of Belleau Wood in World War I. So there is a backstory there that goes. It's kind of harrowing, and I believe his father standing up for him to the military, because I can't remember if he had the Silver Star or the Navy Cross, very high award, which then allowed him to talk to people about his son. I wanted to take a moment here at the end to invite you guys, anybody, if there's someone here who doesn't know Jesus, and ask him into your heart, please come down to the front and pray with me. And let me share the good news with you of what he can do for you. If you want to rededicate yourself, I invite you to come down to rededicate yourself to honor God. Please come down in front and pray. If you have something burdening your heart that you just want to get off of your heart, and bring it to God, because he'll listen to you. I'd like to take that time to invite you guys to come down. All right. Well, thank you for listening to an old soldier for another Memorial Day service. We're going to have a picnic with some really great food. But mostly, I want you to think about the fellowship that comes with it. Lana's going to come up here and she's going to sing God Bless the USA. This is a song that's, ever since I was in the military, this is sung at just about every military function that I've ever been a part of. I love you guys. I love each and every person in this room. And I'd gladly lay down my life for each one of you. I mean, that's just my own opinion.
Memorial Day has been something very special to me all my